Okay, everybody, thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you're going to connect with this. Let's set intentions together. So, setting intention is very important. How we begin things matter. So, let us set our intentions so that over the next little less than an hour, that we are able to concentrate and to learn to connect with our body in a way that is deeper and more healthful and more nourishing, that gives us power and gives us joy, so that we can be more of use to the world in all the different ways that we show up. May it be so. Okay, so I'm really excited about this opportunity. I have for a long time kind of like been sneaking body practice stuff in where and when and how I can. Those who study Aikido with me get a lot of it, and so they get a pretty full dose. But other than that, folks in the Sangha, folks in the Mindfulness Institute, folks at the university doing the mindfulness class, there's just no time really for me to sink in with this material. And recently I did a seminar with Hoshi and Joshua Carton, and some stuff that actually is quite fundamental, it turns out that people haven't been exposed to, and it's really powerful and it's really helpful. So my plan is, over the course of this ongo at least, to have this be a regular feature on Monday nights, and the intention is that these shall be recorded and made available asynchronously for those who can't be here at the moment. And it's going to be sort of a field guide, it's going to be part, I don't want to say philosophical, but conceptual. It'll be part conceptual so that you understand what it is, and what Qigong is and how it functions and stuff like that. But mostly it's going to be practical. I'm going to be showing you specific sets of practices, a little bit about the history of them, where they come from, and that kind of stuff. But mostly the lion's share is going to be about actually engaging with the practice and including it in your routine. So I think probably a pretty healthy place to start would be just with the question of, what the hell is Qigong anyway? It's kind of a difficult thing to define in some ways. The proper term, the term that we hear a lot is Qigong, and Qi in the Chinese language means energy, you could say, and Kung means effort, like Kung Fu, all right, effort. But really it's Neigong, Neigung, Neigong. And Neigong means internal art. So it's the internal art, There's internal and external, and this internal practice is really critical. For those who practice, Zazen is the common thread amongst everyone I've invited here. So all of us engage in some kind of meditation practice based in the Zen tradition. And there's a lot of Qigong or Neigong, there's a lot of internal body practice that starts happening when you sit, kind of whether you know it or not. Automatically, if your posture is kind of even in the right ballpark, and your concentration is pretty well correct, things start to occur in the body that are incredibly helpful. And largely it goes unnoticed, I would say. Some folks, if you're more sensitive to your body, you'll start picking up on these things, but often not, because the progress is usually quite gradual, and it kind of sneaks up on one. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you don't feel yourself growing, but and mom puts you up against that door and makes a little notch and you can see that you're taller. It's like, whoa, I'm taller, It's kind of like that, except there's no door notch for most people, because most people don't really have a sense of their internals. Most people don't have a lot of sensitivity to the internals of their body. And so the first point to realize is that your sensitivity can be practiced and developed. And so this is very much a practice of developing intimacy and developing sensitivity. So this will be like in music, we have a thing called ear training, where you train to be able to hear better. And to someone who's not a musician, that might sound really weird, like you either can hear or you can't, right? Or get a hearing aid, but there you are. No, actually, the ability to really understand and relate to what you're hearing musically is a trainable activity. And any professional musician has done tons and tons of ear training, right? It doesn't have anything directly to do with the instrument. You can't see, you don't take your ear training and go play it for somebody. It doesn't work like that, but it globally improves everything to do with your musicianship. The better ear you have, the better musician you are. That's just a bottom line, okay? And Neigong, Qigong practice is exactly like that with your Qi, okay? When you do Qi training, when you do internal body training, absolutely every aspect of your physical health improves. This is just the fact, right? And this fact is not obvious in the same way that ear training isn't obvious to someone, but the results of it are. You can tell when someone's playing at a much higher level. They're able to respond instantly. They're more sensitive and subtle, and they're more connected to the music, see? So in the same way, when you practice Neigong, what you're practicing really is you're practicing intentionality and awareness of your own body. This is what we're doing. And there are many layers and many levels to it. But the grand sort of thesis here is that if you are able to tune into your body and pay attention to it in more and more subtle and refined levels, then you can start guiding and shaping and directing the body in ways that otherwise you don't have access to. You don't even know that they exist, let alone be able to move them around and improve them in any noticeable way. So is that making sense to everybody so far? So that's globally, that's kind of what we're doing here. Now, in terms of the specifics of it, just a very brief kind of a sketch of the history. It's said that Bodhidharma, the founding ancestor of Zen in China, actually brought the basic teachings of Neigong with him from India up into China. And so it has its roots, as far as we know, in the Indic traditions, the Indic peoples, Indo-Aryan Indic people. And so there's a common root there, obviously enough, with yoga. And you might see some relationships with yoga as we kind of move through this. If you've ever done yoga practice, certain elements of this will seem familiar, although for most of it, it'll seem related but different, and you'll see that as we go on. The postures are incredibly easy. There's nothing straining or difficult or physically challenging about any of the Qigong postures, really. So, some yogic approaches require a kind of a strenuous and vigorous pushing, and it can be done skillfully or not. But in Qigong, it's mental. You're using the same power that you have in your Zazen. When I tell you to take your mind and put it in your one point and you do that, you've just done Neigong. You've just done Qigong. You've taken your mind, your awareness, and you put it in the body in a specific point and hold it there. That single skill is like the first move of a very beautiful game, that there's a lot of other moves that we can make. And you can take that awareness and move it around in different ways. But it's about mental and concentration and feeling into the posture rather than external, where it's more about pushing weights around or running faster or being vigorous with your stretch or something like that, okay? So it's an internal body practice. It's not an external body practice. Weightlifting, running, stretching, wonderful stuff, maybe, but it's not an internal work. The internal work here is sensitivity and awareness, okay? So when we sit, we're practicing from a Neigong point of view the art of centering. Okay? When you put your mind in your one point and concentrate there, you are centering. Okay? Like if you think about a point in the center and everything is drawing into that center. Okay? Centering. Okay? And that center, as you probably know, I hope, is 3 sun, or 3 fingers below your belly button. So we in beginning instruction, we always say, put your finger in your belly button, and then 3 fingers below and up and in a touch. That point on myself, it's about like here. That point is called the one point, or the center point, or the still point. And usually that's all the explicit Qigong instruction a Zen practitioner will get, and it won't be explained that it actually is Qigong training. But that is centering, okay? Everything begins to coalesce around that point if you concentrate on it. And as we often say, that center starts to have more gravitational weight for your mind than the scary or attractive thoughts that kind of visiting and blowing through your awareness, right? So in your zazen, everybody is acclimated to some degree of feeling centered and then letting everything else just kind of go ahead and do what it does, right? Now that is a different skill from the skill I'd like to introduce today, which is called grounding, okay? Grounding, or sometimes it's referred to as rooting, root, like the root of a plant, rooting. This is its own skill that is actually distinguishable from centering. Oftentimes we'll talk about these as though they're synonymous terms, be centered, be rooted. They're not the same thing, at least in terms of the practices that I'm going to be showing you, okay? So while it's true that Zazen has further disciplines than just being centered and concentrating on the breath, it's also true that Neigong has many more disciplines besides just rooting, but it is the foundational pillar practice. And there are some Qigong masters that this is the only thing they do, and they get really, really deep with it, okay? So very much like there are some Zen masters that never go beyond the breath, and they don't need to, frankly. They're rocking just fine, okay? So you could think of, for those of us with Zen experience, that there's a bridge between sitting and kinhin, between Zazen and kinhin, and it's called rooting. And we approach this rooting with a posture that we call just a standing. There's a technical term, I think it's Zhan Jing, something like this. My Chinese isn't so good, but it's a certain posture. Now, the earliest forms of Qigong were simply static postures that a person would get into and hold. And if you don't understand what's going on with them, it looks like very strange. I mean, like, what is this person doing just standing there? But when you realize that they're concentrating in a particular way, then it starts to become more obvious what's going on. And once you learn to speak this language, you can see what's going on a little more. So the first posture I'm going to show you is very critical. It's deceptively simple. And once we've gone through the physical posture and you've understood how to stand physically and be aligned, then I'll show you different ways of concentrating to get the benefit out of the posture, okay? So the posture is kind of like a tune, and then the different ways of concentrating in the posture are different ways of playing the tune or emphasizing different things, you know? Like if you listen to a great jazz quintet, you can listen to just the bass player, you can listen to just the drummer, you can listen to how the bass player and the drummer interact, you can listen to the pianist, you can listen to the saxophonist or the guitarist, and you can listen to any subset or all the whole, and someone who's skilled at it can hear all these different things in the same piece of music, okay? Someone who maybe has better fortune than to be versed in jazz will just hear it as a bunch of noise and say, "Oh, let's do something else." But they can't hear all the subtleties of what's going on in there. Once you've got ear training, you can actually hear all this stuff going on, and then you're doomed to like jazz, like myself. So listener beware, right? But now standing is the same thing. When you see an adept do the posture I'm going to share with you, I guarantee you that what you think they're doing is not the totality of what's happening. There's a lot more going on internally with where their concentration is and what they're working on than you can see, unless you're an adept yourself. When you're an adept yourself, you can not only sense but actually be very clear. You can see what somebody's chi is doing. So kind of in the same way. Now, in martial training, in Aikido, which is a primary method of encounter for me with this, along with Zazen, it's used to be rooted and then uproot others, and to move in a way that is dealing with pressure and resolving it non-violently, right? And so this is a martial use of Neigong, and it's extremely powerful. One of the reasons why I have no doubt that Qi is a thing is because I've been thrown across the room with it. So it's a real thing, okay? But it can also be used for health and longevity. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Qigong used for health and longevity, right? So the health of the body, the longevity of the body. It can also be used for meditation and spiritual realization. That's what we do in the sitting practice. When I tell you to concentrate here on the one point, put your mind there and work with it, and then in Dokusan, we move further down the field and start playing with it. That's using this concentration power to catalyze spiritual awakening. And, what Zen does is steer somebody right into Kensho, right? I mean, that's what happens. So you've got martial uses of this, you've got spiritual uses of this, and you've got health and longevity uses of this. Does that make sense, everybody? So what we're going to be doing here is focusing on the health and longevity, and you'll see how it really relates to all the others as well. Okay, so before I maybe get into the posture and stuff, does anybody have any questions about what I've said so far, or have a comment or something they'd like to kind of throw into the mix? If so, just put your hand up. A silent meditative crew. Okay, fair enough. So let's just move on into the posture. So I did a funny thing. I put sheets on the books, which is strange, but I'm hoping that it enables you to see me a little bit better. So maybe that's not true. We'll see. But the first thing that we're going to work on together is this posture, this standing posture, okay? And so what we have to do is go through and pay attention to the structure. Now I'm thinking about how I can set this up for the recording that people can see me. Spotlight video, maybe that does it. Okay. All right, so it's a little wonky with the thing there, but we'll work with it. I think you can see me better like that than with all the books and stuff. So the first posture is literally just standing, okay? It's a standing posture. And we're going to start from the ground and build up and make sure that our alignments are correct, okay? So the very first thing to realize, I'll just show you the posture as well as I can here with this camera and stuff. Okay, the first thing is the posture is just going to look like this. That's all it looks like, okay, from here. From here. And about now you're probably saying, what's the big deal? You'll see, okay? Okay, so there's our basic posture. Now, let's start with the feet, okay? You want to make sure that both feet are parallel to each other and that they're right underneath the hips. So you don't want to stand with one leg out here or one leg turned or wide or anything like that. You're not doing some big deep posture or anything. It's just really pretty straight on, okay? So you want to look down at the toes and make sure that actually your feet are straight. You don't want to really want to inhabit anything like this, okay? So your feet are straight, and you want to make sure that the toes are opened. Okay, so I'm doing it with my fingers so you can see it, but the toes aren't like clenched, they're opened, all right? And what you should be feeling is on the ball of the foot, you've got 2 points here and 1 point in the heel. So you've got kind of a tripod of contact that sits there and opens. The toes are going like this, all right? And they're parallel to each other, exactly, not one forward or back, exactly here. Now what you want to do is take the foot, and in the center of the foot you want to open it. So you want to have the feeling that your feet are actually doing this, kind of going this way and opening, and so you're like drawing the earth up into your foot. Okay, our typical experience is that we're on top of the ground, and your weight's kind of like resting there. And what you want to cultivate is the sense that your foot is actually opening and drawing the earth up to it. Okay? So if I'm here, I just concentrate like this. My feet are parallel. They're, again, my knees are right underneath my hips, are right aligned up with the ankles. Toes are open. The mid part of the foot is drawing up. So it kind of opens out like this and draws up. Now what I'd like you to do, just with this first bit of it, is close your eyes. Okay, just close your eyes and concentrate on your feet and actually feel that you're in contact with the earth and that you're drawing it up into the center of the foot. And that as you do that, your toes are expanding out away from your foot and opening. So the foot is opening and drawing the earth up to it. So close your eyes and just concentrate in this way. And don't worry about your breath right now. Don't even think about your breath. Don't worry about other aspects of posture. We'll get to them. Just concentrate on the feet. And for most of this practice, it's done with the eyes closed so that you can turn your feeling sense inward. Okay. So does anybody have any feedback for me on that bit? The foot and being able to pull and draw the earth up. Yeah, it's helpful. Ryu?
Yeah, I have a question. So, like, kind of spreading the toes or like feeling the center of the foot drawing up, I have to exert some effort or some
Yeah,
tension to kind of keep them that feeling. Should I not be exerting any real effort?
that's a great question and super helpful. Okay, so no, you don't. What you want to do, you don't want to have muscular exertion do this. You want to have intention and intent do it. So you are intending in that direction and you're allowing in that direction, but you're not forcing. Okay, it's a very, very important thing. So, for example, everybody stand up and close your eyes and just try to, with muscular exertion, force your toes out, like strain. Okay, and you'll feel that. Okay, now relax them. Okay, and now instead, what you want to do is just allow. Right? It's almost like you imagine it and then it starts to occur, and it's very gentle. The basic teaching is that you put your mind in that place and you have your mind in that direction, and then the chi will start to pool there. It start to move in the direction you're imagining or feeling or sensing, and then last of all, the body goes. So it's mind, chi, body. What you don't do is move the body first. The body is moved. The body is the last thing on the train. It's the caboose, okay? The first thing you do is you just intend, and you have to sense into your feet, literally, and you have to intend for that opening and allowing. And as you intend it, the chi starts to move in that direction, and chi is energy. It starts to move in that direction, but don't let that hang you up. Don't try to feel something. Just intend it, imagine it, concentrate on it. Put your mind in that foot, in both feet, and just intend for that feeling to expand. And then by itself, the body will respond to it. That's a critical distinction, and it was a great point. There was something in the chat here. Okay, yeah. So Jigen says, I'm noticing physical pain in other parts of my body, specifically wrists and hands. Is that common or unexpected? So here's the deal. Okay, every point in your body, from a Chinese medical point of view, from a Qigong point of view, every point in your body is directly connected to every other point in your body. There is no separation anywhere, okay? And so part of my journey with this whole thing is my scoliosis. And what I came to realize is that if I, for example, was feeling tension in that certain spot in my back, if I like relaxed and opened my foot, that tension in my back would go away, okay? So it's going to be a journey of discovery as we kind of go through this. And one of the things that we're going to do is be able to sense how different parts of the body actually affect each other, right? So for now, if you're encountering pain and it's acute and severe, obviously, amend and do what you need to do. But just realize that as we go along and you encounter clinks or areas of dullness or ache or pain or sensitivity or strength, strenuousness, all you want to be doing right now is just simply notice them, let them be, and bring your attention back to the foot. Right? You just gently bring it sounds familiar, right? See it, acknowledge it, let it go, and then come back to the foot. Yeah, that's right. Come back to the foot, the toes, right? Come back to all of this, all right? Now, something that I can see from even a few people that I have visuals on right now. Watch this. Okay, you want your feet to be even. You don't want your weight to be going outside or inside or like this or like that. You don't want your weight to be back on the heels or forward. Just keep the weight really in the center of the foot and intend that opening. And very gently just allow the toes to open and the feet to open. Okay. Yeah, not severe, just noticing it in the head and before. Yeah, Jigen, I get you. As I often say, I never really knew I had scoliosis until I started doing Zazen, and then I could feel this curve going on, and I thought the room was turning or I was getting dizzy or something. I was just actually being able to, for the first time, feel my body and how the energy was moving. And the thing is that you're better off feeling it. You want to know what's going on in the body, in the mind, in the soul, so to speak, so that you can then address it and deal with it. See, the things that are the most pernicious are the things that we can't see, that we don't know are affecting us. Those are the things that really can push us around and we don't even know what's going on. So bringing awareness to this is a very important part of the healing process. Okay, any other comments from anybody or questions or anything like that? Okay. So let me ping this again. We'll take the next step here. Okay. So, okay, we've got the feet, somewhat. There are layers to this, but we'll consider that started, okay? So there I am. Both feet are straight, okay? Not here, not there, not this way, not that way. Both feet are straight. And I've got my, this open kind of feeling happening. Okay. Now the next thing to do is to bring your awareness to the ankle joint, okay, on both feet. And what you want to do is you want to feel the ankle joint having a sense of traction or separation in it, okay? So what you don't want is to have your foot here and the weight crushing down into the foot. Okay, what you want to do is you want to have the ankle joint have some separation in it, an opening. Okay, so what we did in the foot itself is we opened the foot and we opened the toes, okay, and we opened everything up, and that drew the floor up. Okay, now the same thing is going to happen with the ankle. You're going to take the ankle and open it. Now, when I talk about opening the ankle, okay, it's not like you can see this massively moving, all right? It's a micro, there actually is physical movement, and the further on you get with this, the more the movement becomes obvious, it becomes more and more physical, but at the very least you want to have the sense. You want to have the sense of opening in that ankle joint. And you want to be able to put your mind in the ankle joint, keep your mind in the ankle joints, and gently open them with your mind. And what that means is you put your mind there, hold it there, and invite or imagine or sense or intend an opening. Now you might then feel your body actually start to respond. You don't have to inhibit physical responses. In fact, we want them to occur, but you don't get them happening by somehow trying to like open your ankle joints, like doing a push-up or something. You just open the feet, draw the earth up to, and then ankle, open the ankle and make space. And we're talking about less than a sheet of paper space in the joint, but you want to have that sense of it opening, okay? So, standing with eyes closed, we've got our connection to the floor. Our feet are lined up. They're opening and they're drawing. And again, you have to learn how to not do this with aggression and muscle, but do it with intention and gentleness. You gently intend and allow, okay? And once you've got the feet opened up, and you can sense that being what you want, let your awareness go up into the ankle joints and just invite an opening in the ankle joint. Now, when you really get this online and you really get this going, you can actually feel like if a car has some trouble and you need to change the tire, you put the car jack in there and you go like this and the thing lifts, okay? When I go like this and I've got my ankles like that and I intend the ankles to open, I can feel it pushing up all the way through the crown of my head. Without exaggeration, that is my experience. So there is a physical there's a physical movement that happens, right? And you can feel it, all right? In the beginning, that's probably not going to be your experience. It might be, but you definitely want to know that that's where it gets to. Just in the same way that I can intend my feet to open up, then I can intend my ankles to open. Okay. Any questions on this, on the ankles? There's not much more to say about them right now. Okay. So let's keep going here. Now, the shins it's a difficult place for most of us to feel or have any kind of sense of, but what you want to do is you've got the foot open, you've got the ankle opens up, and then you want to kind of bring your awareness through the center of the bones, okay? Not out here on the skin, but you just kind of come right up the bone, and you take how the bone goes right up here into the knee joint, okay? And you've got these two bones meeting here. So what you want to do is with the knees, it's very important. This is something to maybe write down, okay? The knee does not, it doesn't hold weight. It transfers weight. Okay, the knee, when it's healthy, it transfers weight. It doesn't hold weight. Okay, and this is very important. Okay, your knees are probably the weakest design element of the body, at least one of them, a contender. And as you age, the thing you want to really make sure is that your legs are strong and your balance is good. Okay? I mean, most people have a story of some elder person that fell and something broke in the hip, and then that's that. You know what I mean? So what we want to do is wherever we are on the scale of that, we can improve it with intent and awareness. That's the thing. Okay? No matter what level of ability a person has access to, there's ways to improve it. There's even, I know some Qigong masters that say that they have got folks that have paralyzed from the chest down, wheelchair folks, and yet with intention and intent, they can start to get qi circulating in those areas of the body. And that makes them more healthy than if the qi is not circulating in that area of the body. Okay? Okay. So there we are. So what we're going to do with the knee now, when I say it's not a weight bearing, but it's a weight transferring joint, if you take, let's just say, and make sure you do this safely. I'm going to make this an example of what not to do. But if you have your knees here and you bend forward far enough, then suddenly your body's weight does not connect with the floor anymore. It connects up here on the tops of your legs. Right? And your weight is way over here and your knees are bearing the weight. And if you come back here and lock them, then all your weight comes up this way, right? So what we want to do instead is have a bend in the knee. So it's like, instead of being like this, it's here. Right? Instead of being like this, it's here. Right? So it's a soft knee, and you want to feel the backs of your legs is where your weight is drawing down. You don't want your weight to be in the front of your body. You want the weight to be a little bit here in the back as it goes through. All right, so it's almost like like if you're about to like sit in a chair, like you're coming here and you're going to sit down. It's like there. That part of getting to sit down, it's just the very first right there. That's something like the sensation. So the knees themselves are soft, okay? And it feels like you're just kind of gently kind of coming to a sitting position. But you're not there yet, okay? Now you notice as you do this, you can make the knees soft, and then if you kind of rock your weight forward, it goes to the ball of the foot, and if you rock your weight back, it goes to the heel. So what you want to do is you want to have the knees soft and then rock so that your weight is right in the center of your foot. There are times to bring it to the fore and times to bring it to the heel. We'll get to those. But your basic home plate is your knees are soft and you're toggled in such a way that your weight is going straight down the middle of the foot. Okay? So I can have my knee in the correct curve and then toggle back so that the weight is on the heels, and that's not good. I can have the knee correctly bent and have toggled forward so much that my weight's on my toes. That's no good. You have the knees pulled in and the weight toggled so that it goes right down to the center of the foot. Now as you do that, in the same way that we had a gentle open expansion and tension of the foot and the toes, and then we had a gentle open expansion of the heel, or the ankle rather. Now we've got the correct posture and we're going to have the same expansion in the knees. So you want to literally feel or sense into the joint, into the space, and you between the two bones, and you want to sense and intend a little space to happen there so that there's an opening in the knee joint, just enough. And again, don't physically strain somehow to make this go. That's not going to be useful or helpful, arguably even possible, you know. But what you do want to do is have your mind go in the joint between the knees and open up and make space in there. And again, in the same way that when you open the ankle, the weight goes up the structure. When you open the knee, the same thing. It again goes up the structure. It goes actually up and down. We'll talk about this more as we get into it. But the basic way right now is think about it as an airbag in the ankle that opens, whoop, and then an airbag in the knee that opens, whoop, right? And each one of those just opens up a level of support in the structure. Okay. So any questions or observations up into the knee? Please, Yoshiki, yeah.
Are your kneecaps relaxed? Because I felt like mine were engaging. It's a really small area between front and back.
Yeah, you don't, again, the rule of thumb here is that we're using our mind to make the chi move in a certain way, and you allow the body to be moved. Okay, so you want to be very gentle about it. You don't want to stress or flex or do anything. And when you do this, what we're doing is we're getting space to occur. It's called traction, you know, compression and then traction, right? And so what you're looking for is a kind of a tensile strength that's based on an opening. So it's kind of like if you have a balloon and you blow up the balloon, everything opens. It's kind of like that inside the joint of the knee, and the knee opens. All right, so the foot opens and draws up, the ankle opens, the knee opens. Is that helpful?
Yeah, but I still feel them engaging and not engaging. I just wondered if you had a rule or something that you can tell me later if you think about it.
No. It's not.
I'm really knee conscious because I'm been protecting him for a lot of years from backpacking and stuff. So it's like,
yeah, you should. Yeah, it's really this is a thing that you need to practice. You know what I mean? And what it feels like when you're practicing it well is there's no strain, there's no tension, there's no aggression, but there's a lot of power, and there's a lot of circulation and stability. But it's relaxed. There's nothing clinky or aggressive about it. So you have to kind of like, you know, that's the map. You have to kind of keep steering in that direction. Okay. Anybody else? Please. Yeah. Jukai?
I noticed that when I'm imagining the space between my ankles and my knees, that my breath tightens.
Ah, very good. I'm glad you're noticing it. That's great. Yeah, so let's talk about that. There is a whole repertoire of breath work that we'll be doing as part of our time together here in this format. Again, in traditional Zen training, I teach about, I don't know, a tenth, if that, of breath, actual breath practice. Okay, there's a lot to working with the breath. But for now, your rule of thumb is really simple. When you feel clenching or tightening, you know, notice it, acknowledge it, let it go, and bring your mind back to what you're working on in the body. So in this case, the knee, and opening up the knee joint very gently. Okay? When you notice the tension, you know, if your jaw suddenly clenches, it's probably your jaw is clenched already, you just noticed it. Or it could be that you start to put your attention there and you're not sure you're really doing it, and so you kind of want to hunker down and make it work more, and that causes tension in the body. So it's the same thing in Zazen. You know, if you're sitting there in meditation and you start to feel like, oh, I'm not doing it right, I've got to dig in here, you know, you just give yourself a little Zen fever, you know, and it doesn't do any good, right? So what you want to do is relax into and allow this expansion and structural alignment to kind of come online. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Beautiful. Okay. All right, so the next part here, this is actually a big topic, okay? The hips, when we get here, the feet are parallel, open and inviting up. The ankles are expansive. The knees are just slightly bent and opened. And we've talked about leaning back and forth till you find the place where the weight is right in the center of the feet. That's like when you sit, sometimes you rock back and forth like this until you find the center point, right? That's Qigong, folks. That's exactly what that is. It's Neigong, right? So now the hips, okay, this is a big topic, and probably, honestly, we don't have time to get into it too much. I'm going to give you, let me do this. Let me give you a really good, quick overview of the rest of the posture so you have it to be more or less correct, and then we'll start next week from the hips up and get more depth with it. But for now, what you want to do is you're here, okay? You've got all the points that we've talked about already in line, okay? Then what you want to do is you want to feel your tailbone, okay? So the tailbone is down here on the hindquarters, okay? And what you want to do is you want to take your hip and you want to rotate it forward so it tucks under just a little bit, okay? And you need to do this without getting husky about it. Just very gently, you kind of intend this rotation. And what you're really looking for is you want that tailbone, okay, to just toggle like that. And you can see it just goes this way just a little bit. So this is your, there you are, and you turn and it just toggles forward like this. And what happens is this, where your tailbone is, sends the chi through the structure. And that part, you want to go right through the center of your legs to the center of your foot. Okay? So I do not want my hips to be just neutral. No. And I don't want my hips to be torqued this way. No. I want my hip to be very gently rotated under. And what I want to feel is when I rock back and forth to get my weight right in the center, okay, and then I toggle that tailbone and the pelvis in, I actually doubly send the weight down into the center of the foot. So this becomes like, it really sends the weight straight down, which is what you want, okay? So there's layers to this if you follow the logic of it, okay? When I said you bend the knees, I said the weight comes down the back of the leg and then towards the center of the foot. That's the case. That's in place. Now you rotate the hip and you send that chi right down the center of the foot, okay? So stand up and try this. Close your eyes and get all these points in place. Okay, so you start with the feet are opening, ankles open, knees are bent just the correct amount, and then the knee joints have space inside them. Now, rotate your pelvis and just notice how that changes where the weight hits your feet. Just kind of go back and forth, take your pelvis all the way tucked in and turned under, and just notice how that affects where your weight is hitting the ground, right? Gravity is basically pulling your structure down, and when you tilt the pelvis correctly, it takes that pull and channels it in a way that's helpful for your body, okay? Now I'm going to do this really quick because we're running out of time, and I need to make sure that we honor our intention. I really don't want these classes to be ponderous or anything, so we're going to stick to our hour. But rough cut, okay? This is provisional teaching just to get us something to work with. Your main case this week with your Neigong practice is standing, okay? And you notice my arms are turned this way. I'm standing here. But really what you're doing is putting your mind in the feet, the toes, the ankles, the knees, and the pelvis. And that's your gig, okay? Now, what the rest you need to know is your hands are turned like this. You can think like this. They call this the tiger's mouth right here. The tiger's mouth sits down here. You can actually touch your leg right about here with it, okay? And that's fine. So your fingers are like this way. You're not doing this, okay? You're not like military and straight. They are rotated, okay? And then just very briefly, just this all softens. What you're looking for in the upper body, and obviously there's a lot here, but you want everything to get soft and to sink down, okay? You don't want to have anything up here that's holding the weight. You want this to relax in so the weight can actually sink and go through the torso into the hip bones and then down, okay? So the arms are turned around and touched to the legs, and the chin is lightly tucked in, just like in your Zazen practice, actually the same. Okay, eyes are closed, like that. So what you do is, you start from, you get yourself in that basic posture, okay? I recommend you do this outside if you can, inside is fine. Eyes are closed, okay? And you start at where your skin is touching the earth, and you start there, and you just feel into the soles of your feet. Obviously, it's happier to do this barefoot on the ground. That's ideal if you can. But, you know, you can totally do this with sneakers or whatever. It's okay, all right? But feel into the bottoms of your feet and open. All right? You would feel into the foot and you open it. And when you feel like you've really got that going, then you do the next step and feel into the ankle and open that up. And take time. Don't rush it. You're practicing sensing the insides of your body. That's what you're doing. You're practicing being able to sense inside your body, being able to contact it, okay? So then knees, make sure they're bent right, everything we talked about. Then toggle back and forth, make sure your weight's where it needs to be, right in the center of the foot. And then the hip, feel the hip tuck under, feel the tailbone, and you want to practice sending that tailbone energy right down to the center of the foot also. And for the rest, just get yourself turned in. Everything is soft. Head is tucked in just like you do when you're sitting. And then we'll talk in more detail about that next time. Okay, so any questions about the practice and what we're supposed to do this week?
I have a question.
Okay.
When and how often would you recommend practicing this? Like just every morning when you before Zazen or after Zazen or?
Yeah, thank you, Ariu. The real answer is that this is a practice like Zazen or anything else. You know, if you do it for a minute or two, you're not going to sink in enough. So you know, like in your meditation practice, until you're really experienced, okay, it takes a while for most people to settle in. You know, even really experienced Zen students at sesshin, the first day, I usually don't want to see people in Doksan because they're still too scattered. You know what I mean? So, you know, it takes a certain amount of time for things to settle in. What I would recommend, and don't let this be off-putting, but I would say at least 20 minutes. If you stand for 20 minutes, usually it takes about 15 minutes for a person to be able to land their consciousness inside their body, like really, and then you can start to move it and go around. So what I would recommend is, you know, if that's too much, then okay, 5 minutes is fine, you know, but better consistently every day than binging next Sunday night because the class is the next day. I mean, you know, but what you're really practicing is your sensitivity and your awareness. So it takes time for your mind to settle in and to be able to pay attention. Now, if you think about what we do in formal Zen training, okay, we're sitting and then the bell rings and everybody makes like this and then everybody stands up, right? And we're in a different posture. We're either in Shashu or in Gasho. Those are specific Neigong postures, okay? And it's a standing posture. And you do that until the bell rings, and then you move, and then you start doing walking meditation. So that standing thing is this practice. I'm just using this form with the arms, this mudra, because it's actually the easiest one to sense, and it's the best place to start. But this shashu that we do and this gasho that we do, it's just other Neigong postures. So that said, yeah, I'd encourage you to give it at least 10 minutes, but you'll feel something. If you put your mind in your body like this and just hold your attention there, you'll start to be able to sense your body in a way that you can't if you don't do this. It's just a fact, and it's something that you can do and you can develop. All right. Any other comments or questions? I'll check the chat. Looks like there's a message. Another meeting, Conryu, of course, no problem. Okay, folks. So I hope you will continue this with me. There's a lot under the hood here, and it's really worth doing. And we're going to just kind of continue on this track and make it a very simple, kind of layered practice that we can do that'll gradually, it'll start making more and more sense to you if it doesn't already. Okay, so let's dedicate the merit then. So by our hanging out tonight with this crazy subject, may we find more health and longevity in our own bodies, and may it bring joy and lightness and circulation to us, and therefore enable us to alleviate suffering for ourselves, for our bodies, and for others, and for all beings throughout space and time. May it be so. All right, super cool. Thank you, everybody. I hope you find this useful, and I look forward to the next one. If between now and then you've got questions about this, just, maybe put a note, send it to me or something, and I'll collect them, and we'll try to address them next time, if not between now and then. All right, thank you, everybody.